silence. It's a language of its own. Sometimes it brings peace. Other times it creates wounds deeper than words ever could. We often think that staying silent is harmless, that ignoring a situation or a person is the best way to deal with discomfort. But have you ever stopped to wonder how much damage your silence could be causing? Think about it. A friend reaches out, but you don't respond. A loved one is hurting, but you say nothing. A simple, "Are you okay?" could mean the world, but you hold back. Today, we're going to explore the hidden power of silence, not just as a choice, but as a weapon that, when misused, can cause pain, uncertainty, and even permanent emotional scars. We will break down 5 critical ways silence affects relationships, mental health, and communication. By the end of this video, you'll realize how powerful your words and your silence truly are. So let's dive in. Number 1. Silence creates uncertainty and anxiety. Silence is often mistaken for peace, but in reality, it can be a storm that rages inside the mind. When someone you care about suddenly stops talking to you, whether it's a friend, a romantic partner, or even a colleague, it creates an emotional vacuum. The mind doesn't handle emptiness well, so it starts filling in the blanks. And more often than not, it fills those blanks with negative assumptions. Imagine this. You text someone important to you. Maybe it's an apology, a heartfelt message, or just a simple, "Hey, how are you?" You see the message has been delivered. You wait. Minutes turn into hours. Hours turn into days. There's no response. At first, you think, maybe they're busy. Then doubt creeps in. Did I say something wrong? Eventually, that doubt turns into anxiety. Do they even care about me anymore? This mental cycle of overthinking and self-doubt can be exhausting. Psychologists call this rejection sensitivity, a heightened emotional reaction to perceived social exclusion. Our brains are wired to seek social validation. That's why even a small sign of disconnection, like being ignored or ghosted, can trigger a stress response. It activates the same neural pathways in the brain that process physical pain. In other words, being ignored can hurt just as much as a physical wound. A real-life example. Think about couples who experience the silent treatment during an argument. One person wants to talk, to fix things, but the other withdraws into silence. What happens? The person being ignored starts to panic. They replay every moment in their head, wondering what they did wrong. They might even start apologizing for things they didn't do, just to break the silence. The silence becomes a form of control, a way of making someone feel powerless. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "If you are lonely when you're alone, you are in bad company." But sometimes the worst loneliness isn't when you're alone. It's when you're with someone who refuses to acknowledge you. Silence doesn't bring clarity. It breeds confusion. Instead of letting someone suffer in uncertainty, a simple message like, "I need some space, but I'll reach out soon," can prevent unnecessary pain. Words have the power to heal, clarify, and bring peace. But silence only feeds anxiety. Number 2, silence can be more painful than rejection. Rejection hurts, but silence haunts. It leaves a person in a dark, endless tunnel of uncertainty, where every thought becomes a whisper of doubt, and every moment without closure feels like an eternity. When someone rejects you outright, at least you have an answer. Yes, it stings, but you can process it, accept it, and eventually move on. But when someone chooses silence over honesty, They leave you trapped in a cycle of hope and confusion, and that can be far more painful than an outright no. Imagine you confess your feelings to someone you deeply care about. You send the message, your heart racing, your palms sweating. Then, nothing. No response, no acknowledgement, just silence. You check your phone repeatedly, looking for any sign, a read receipt, a typing bubble, anything that tells you they heard you. But there's nothing. Days pass, and you're left questioning everything. Did they even care? Are they ignoring me on purpose? Maybe they just didn't see it. Or maybe I was never important to them in the first place. This isn't just painful. It's a form of psychological torment. Studies have shown that social exclusion and being ignored activate the same brain regions associated with physical pain. In other words, your brain processes silence the same way it processes a physical injury. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." But how do you reject the pain of silence when you don't even know why it's happening? Now, let's think about another scenario. You apply for a job you really want. You go through the interviews. Everything seems promising, and they tell you, "We'll get back to you soon." So you wait, and wait, and wait. Days turn into weeks. Still nothing. Eventually you realize they've chosen someone else, but they never had the decency to tell you. That silence stings more than if they had simply sent an email saying, "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." At least then you would have closure. Instead, you're left in limbo, wondering what went wrong. And what about friendships? Have you ever had a close friend suddenly disappear from your life? No explanation, no argument, just distance. You replay past conversations in your head, trying to pinpoint what went wrong. Did I offend them? Are they mad at me? You want to reach out, but you're afraid of seeming desperate. So you suffer in silence, all because the other person chose to fade away instead of facing a difficult conversation. This is why silence is so much worse than rejection. It doesn't just hurt, it erases. It makes you feel invisible, insignificant, and unworthy of an answer. It's a slow, painful realization that someone you valued doesn't value you enough to even acknowledge you, and that realization, that's what breaks people. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you don't want to respond to someone, whether it's in relationships, friendships, or even professional settings, ask yourself, is my silence giving them peace, or is it leaving them in unnecessary pain? If you don't want to continue a connection, be honest. A simple, "I don't feel the same way," or "I don't think this is working out," is far better than disappearing. Even when the truth is painful, it's still better than the silent void of uncertainty. In the end, silence doesn't just end relationships. It destroys trust, damages self-worth, and leaves scars that last far longer than words ever could. If you truly respect someone, give them the closure they deserve, because in the long run, it's not rejection that breaks people. It's the emptiness of being ignored. Number 3, silence can damage your own mental health. We often think of silence as something we use against others, ignoring a message, refusing to respond, walking away from a conversation. But what about the silence we impose on ourselves? What about the words we never speak, the emotions we suppress, and the pain we bottle up, thinking that keeping quiet will make it all go away? The truth is, silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's destructive. Think about the times you were deeply hurt, but didn't say anything. Maybe someone disrespected you, but instead of standing up for yourself, you smiled and let it slide. Maybe you were struggling with stress or sadness, but you convinced yourself that nobody would understand, so you kept it to yourself. Maybe you wanted to express love, appreciation, or even an apology, but fear held you back. Over time, all these unspoken words don't disappear. They turn into emotional weight that drags you down. The human mind isn't designed to store pain indefinitely. What we don't express, we internalize. And when we internalize too much, it starts affecting our mental and even physical health. Studies have shown that people who suppress their emotions are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and even high blood pressure. When you keep your pain inside, it festers like an untreated wound. What starts as a small issue can eventually turn into something much more serious. A real-life example? Think about someone who experiences heartbreak but refuses to talk about it. They act strong, telling themselves, "It's fine, I'll just move on." But deep down, the unresolved emotions pile up. Every song, every memory, every little reminder brings a quiet ache, but they never let it out. Eventually, their silence turns into something heavier. They stop trusting people, they struggle with emotional connections, and they build walls so high that even the right person can't reach them. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But what if your reaction is complete silence? What if, instead of processing your emotions, you bury them so deep that you lose touch with yourself? Here's something many people don't realize. Silence can lead to self-destruction. If you always silence your pain, eventually you start believing that your feelings don't matter. And when you believe that, you stop advocating for yourself. You stay in toxic relationships because you're afraid to speak up. You tolerate disrespect because you've convinced yourself that saying something won't change anything. You let opportunities slip away because the fear of rejection keeps you silent. Over time, you become invisible in your own life. Now, imagine a different scenario. Imagine that, instead of keeping everything inside, you allowed yourself to speak. You set boundaries. You expressed your emotions. You let people know when they hurt you. Would it be easy? Number. But would it free you from the weight of unspoken pain? Absolutely. Silence, when used correctly, can be powerful. It can help you stay calm in a chaotic situation. It can allow you to observe before reacting, and it can even be a tool for self-reflection. But when silence is used as a defense mechanism, as a way to suppress pain instead of confronting it, it stops being helpful and starts being harmful. So, if you've been carrying the weight of silence for too long, maybe it's time to let some of it go. Maybe it's time to have that difficult conversation, to express what you've been holding back, or at the very least, to admit to yourself that your feelings are valid and deserve to be acknowledged. Because in the end, the silence that damages you the most isn't the silence from others. It's the silence you force upon yourself. Number 4. Silence can be a form of power, but it must be used wisely. Silence is one of the most underrated weapons in human interaction. In a world where people constantly seek validation, attention, and immediate reactions, the ability to stay silent can set you apart. It can make you mysterious, unshakable, and even intimidating. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and strategists throughout history have understood this. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is a skill that can give you immense power. However, like any powerful tool, silence must be used wisely. Otherwise, it can do more harm than good. Think about a situation where someone tries to provoke you, maybe an argument, an insult, or a personal attack. Most people react instantly. They let emotions take control, throwing words back without thinking. But those who understand the power of silence don't take the bait. Instead of reacting, they pause. They let the other person's words hang in the air, making the opponent feel their own insecurity. This is why silence can be stronger than any comeback. When you refuse to engage in meaningless conflicts, you show control over your emotions, a quality that commands respect and influence. A classic example: Stoicism. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "You always have the option of having no opinion." In other words, you don't have to react to everything. When you stay silent, you deny others the power to manipulate you. You maintain your inner peace while they waste their energy trying to provoke a reaction that never comes. But while silence can be a powerful shield, it can also become a dangerous sword when used the wrong way. Think about relationships, whether romantic, friendships, or even professional settings. Silent treatment is often used as a form of emotional control. When someone refuses to talk, ignores messages, or withdraws communication without explanation, they create an imbalance of power. The person being ignored starts feeling desperate, confused, and powerless. This kind of silence doesn't create respect. It creates resentment. If used too often, it can destroy relationships and break trust beyond repair. A real-world example. Think about job negotiations. Sometimes when someone is offered a deal, the best strategy is to say nothing. Instead of rushing to accept or decline, staying silent makes the other party uncomfortable. They start second-guessing themselves, wondering if they should offer more. Silence in negotiation can create pressure, leading the other person to make the first move. But if silence is used excessively, if communication is completely cut off, it can also lead to lost opportunities. The key is balance. This is why silence must be used with purpose. If you use it to control, manipulate, or create emotional distance, it will only lead to negativity. But if you use it to observe, maintain your power, and avoid unnecessary conflict, it can be one of your greatest strengths. So, before choosing silence, ask yourself, am I using this to protect my peace, or am I using it to hurt someone? Because in the end, silence is like fire. It can warm you or burn you, depending on how you use it. Number 5. The right words at the right time can change everything. Words are powerful. A single sentence can break a heart, but the right words at the right moment can also heal wounds, save relationships, and change lives. Silence has its place, but when it comes to love, forgiveness, encouragement, and understanding, staying silent can sometimes do more harm than good. The right words, spoken with honesty and sincerity, have the power to shift emotions, mend broken bonds, and create new possibilities. Think about a time when you felt completely lost. Maybe you were going through heartbreak, struggling with self-doubt, or facing a major failure. And then someone said something that changed your perspective. It could have been a friend, a mentor, or even a stranger. Their words might not have solved everything immediately, but they gave you something priceless: hope. A reminder that you weren't alone, that things would get better, or that you were stronger than you believed. In that moment, those words became a lifeline. Now, imagine the opposite scenario. Imagine you needed to hear something, an apology, an expression of love, or even a simple, "I'm proud of you." But it never came. The silence wasn't just painful, it left a void. Unspoken words can haunt people for years. A parent who never told their child, "I love you." A friend who never said, "I'm sorry." A lover who never expressed, "I still care about you." In these cases, silence doesn't protect, it creates regret. One of the most powerful examples of words changing everything is in forgiveness. Many people hold on to grudges because they never hear the words, "I was wrong," "I'm sorry." But when those words are finally spoken with sincerity, they can break down walls that seemed impossible to overcome. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But how we react is often shaped by the words we hear. A heartfelt apology can turn anger into understanding. A few words of encouragement can turn fear into confidence. Even in relationships, the right words at the right time can save something that is falling apart. How many breakups, misunderstandings, and lost friendships could have been prevented if one person had simply said, "Let's talk, I care about you, let's figure this out." But instead, people assume the other person should just know how they feel. They let pride, fear, or stubbornness keep them silent, and before they realize it, it's too late. In professional life too, words can be the difference between success and failure. Imagine two people with equal talent. One constantly hears, "You're capable, you can do this." The other hears, "You're not good enough." Who do you think will perform better? Words shape our self-perception more than we realize. This is why great leaders, coaches, and mentors use words to uplift and inspire, because they understand that belief begins with language. So, if you've been holding back words that someone needs to hear, don't wait. If you love someone, tell them. If you appreciate someone, let them know. If you need to apologize, don't let pride stop you, because the right words at the right time can heal pain, build trust, and change lives. Silence is powerful, but words, when spoken with truth and heart, have the power to transform everything. As we've seen, silence is more than just the absence of sound. It's a force that can shape relationships, influence emotions, and even define your own mental well-being. Whether it's the pain of being ignored, the self-destruction of unspoken words, or the strategic power that silence can bring, how you use silence can change the course of your life. But silence is not the only tool in your arsenal. The right words, spoken at the right moment, hold an extraordinary power to heal, inspire, and transform. Don't let the fear of rejection or conflict keep you from speaking your truth. Remember, the words you choose today can shape your tomorrow. So, the next time you're faced with silence, whether from others or within yourself, ask yourself, is this silence building me, or is it breaking me? And when the time comes to speak, choose your words with intention and care, because you never know how they might change everything. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another empowering insight. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let's continue the conversation. Stay strong, stay true, and remember, The power of your words and silence lies in how you choose to wield them. Until next time, take care.